And so our next section is the Epstein file release and also the Andrew Tate release, I guess. So last week there was a ton of talk about, after such a long time, all of the Epstein files finally being released, and at the same time the Tate brothers were actually released into the U.S. at the request of the Trump administration. And all of this has caused a massive outburst of MAGA on MAGA violence, like I said at the start of the show. So I really wanted to show this. So Laura Loomer here has basically been posting nonstop for days just about Pam Bondi and how incompetent she is. Discuss the missing Epstein files. Pam Bondi blocked her. It's all just Pam Bondi. I guess her dogs. Pam Bondi must watch Pam Bondi. It's so crazy. That's all she's been talking about. It's caused a massive splintering between. I mean, I remember when Pam Bondi was appointed as the Attorney General, and so many of people on MAGA were like, yeah, she was here more. Today, Pam Bondi, the Trump-appointed U.S. General, blocked me on X from her official account that has a gray check mark, which indicates it's an official government account. So, yeah, knives out, I guess, for Laura Loomer. And she's really said that her only goal was to support Trump, not really just to support the entire GOP. And she obviously has, in the past, sort of held this view that she's like very pro-Trump and not insanely pro the rest of her party. But it's just, like I was saying, when Pam Bondi was appointed to the Attorney General after Matt Gaetz obviously got kicked out of that role because he, whatever. I'm not gonna go into that, but everybody was like, wow, this is great, such a great appointment. The first major thing that she tries to do ends up being a huge failure. So it was basically announced that it would be like a step-by-step process or something, and they would release 1, stage 2, 3, and the first release was just like, there were a bunch of names that were censored on the list and a bunch of information that we already knew. And let's be real here, under the Trump administration, the Epstein files, the real Epstein files, the uncensored version, it's not getting released because Donald Trump is probably on the list because he was a very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of great things to say about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was the same. So the right obviously wasn't only divided on the Epstein files, but was heavily splintered by Andrew Tate's release. So we can go and show this here. Candace Owens' sort of defense of the Tate brothers. So here, let me find this. So Candace Owens was very defensive of the Tate brothers, basically for a very long time. She pretty much always has been, because she did an interview with them and she said all these things like there's no evidence against them. So here, we can play this now.
And by the way, if we're going to speak about getting rid of pornography, the very last people we should be worrying about is Andrew and Tristan Tate. Okay, let's talk about Pornhub. Like, really, guys, if we're going to go for it, let's talk about Pornhub. And so I just had the nuance, and I read the case, and everyone condemned me. How could you defend them? I'm just reading the facts, and they're not going to be convicted. Well, guess what? That happened. Okay, the case ended up being thrown out in Romania. They said there's no evidence here. It's exactly what I was saying. There's not enough evidence here to bring charges against them, and the prosecutors essentially were going to have to rebuild an entire case to try to charge them, at which case it looks like the Trump administration intervened because they are American citizens, and they were just brought back to America. They are now on American soil. They landed this morning, and for some reason people are angry about that because they don't like who Andrew and Tristan Tate are. They do not like their online personas. They don't like the way that they speak to women. And so they're happy to have these men be wrongfully convicted for something that they didn't do. I cannot understand this logic. I cannot understand why you think you need to like someone or agree with their lifestyles in order to say that no person should spend a single second in prison.
Okay, so that was Candace Owens' defense of Andrew and Tristan Tate. So, of course, like, it's been this sort of thing with DCOT just not really having their stuff together, and then they also they have to like verify the evidence, and of course a trial takes a long time, especially when you have a lot of money to get the best lawyers possible. Andrew Tate's lawyer has been spreading just blatant lies on Twitter basically ever since the case came about in the first place. I remember back in like 2024, 2023, watching all these videos about, oh, Andrew Tate's finally been released. Andrew Tate finally is not going to jail. And found not guilty. And it actually wasn't true. They just threw out like one part of evidence, but then they had some new evidence or whatever. And it's really blatantly obvious that the Tate brothers, I mean, of course, innocent until proven guilty, but it's pretty obvious that they probably are guilty. I mean, much of the evidence against them is from their own publicly spread videos, not just about the whole raping minors thing, but also about all the criminal stuff that they did, and there's just admissions of them. But then, like I was saying, this is a hugely divisive issue, maybe even more than the Jeffrey Epstein thing, because here, we can show this Ben Shapiro photo here. Let me get this. So we have Ben Shapiro and then Nick Fuentes also fighting each other. So Ben Shapiro here says that America does not need more self-proclaimed pimps and terror supporters, obviously in regards to Andrew Tate being pro-Palestine. Now, being pro-Palestine doesn't make you pro-terror, but Andrew Tate is like blatantly anti-Semitic too, so there is that. Like, not gonna defend him on that, but terror supporters with outstanding criminal allegations of sex trafficking and a history of pornographic distribution, plus a grift university that suckers young men out of thousands of dollars. And then our friend Nick Fuentes here says, everyone knows why you attack the Tates, because they don't bow down to Israel like the rest of Con Inc. Nobody is buying it anymore. Your company is imploding while Candace, Tucker, and Andrew Tate are ascendant. You are losing. So, you know, Andrew Tate obviously has like definitely fallen off since his real peak in 2022. And what would you say about all this?
I mean, I guess we'll start with the Tate brothers thing. I mean, of course, yeah, I think you're right. He's probably guilty. He probably did all these things. But yeah, I don't like, or I mean, it doesn't help him how he said like, oh, I'm innocent until proven guilty. So, but I mean, that is true. He is innocent until proven guilty. So I don't see a reason he should be held there until they find him guilty. I mean, of course, the problem is getting him to actually return. Like, what if he just doesn't go or returns into hiding?
He's never going to return to Romania.
Yeah.
He's scot-free now. I mean, the UK also has a bunch of charges against him, but Andrew Tate literally said that he was going to be defeating his case in Romania, standing up to the man. Then he was going to go to the UK and deal with his case, and then also run for public office. But it seems like his case was too strong for that to happen, and he actually fled. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess. So now for the Jeffrey Epstein thing. I mean, for this, I am kind of critical of the Trump administration. Like, why, like, treat this as some major, like, release or whatever? Like, have, like, social media influencers, like, holding up the binder, like, trophies or whatever. And then there's, yeah, you're right, there's just literally zero information. I think we need to focus more on, like, the more important things, like China and things like that. But, I mean, of course, the American people deserve to have it fully released. I think Trump said that he actually, like, wouldn't be opposed to the client list being released or revealed, I guess. I mean, we'll see if that happens, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
I mean, obviously, Donald Trump would be supportive of releasing this as like a populist. That's how he won. But he's not going to actually support releasing this because, like I said, he's likely on the list. But, yeah, like, what did Donald Trump run on? Lowering prices, not happening at all. The stock market is doing pretty bad right now. You have prices basically staying the same. Inflation is up. There are no tariffs yet because Trump literally already backed down. No tariffs against China, which is something that I literally support. And he doesn't do that. Deportations, let's be real, exact same speed as the Biden administration. None of the stuff that Donald Trump said he was going to do, he actually is really doing it all. And that's one of the major reasons why if I would go back in time and say, look, if you're voting for this guy, even if you support much of his policies, he's likely not to even do much of that at all because he's just beholden to all these special interests. He says he's going to bring down prices, but he's also bought out by all these oligarchs. So is he going to go out against these big corporations that are price gouging people? Of course not. So yeah, the Epstein files. I remember texting you like on the bus or telling you on the bus ride home, oh my gosh, the Epstein files are getting released, and searching it up, and it was absolutely nothing. So yeah, it was just a huge joke, I guess.